Tova.
Shana Tova.
Vulnerability is bad for you. Letting people in makes it harder to protect ourselves. And when we can't do that, we can get hurt. We carry our burdens alone because it feels safer. Exposing our struggles will only make things worse. The only way to survive is to tough it out. Last week, the weight of the semester had finally began to catch up with me. Just like the average Brandeis student, I found myself double majored and triple booked, with back-to-back commitments that had me running from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. I've typed out my frustrations to a friend, Chloe, but I hesitated before hitting send. She was one of my closest friends, but I was worried. Was I complaining too much? Was this going to bother her? Finally, I pressed send, sharing how I was upset that people were telling me to take a step back from commitments that I cared deeply about. I felt like I wasn't allowed to complain because I had chosen to do all of these things, and that people felt that I had brought this storm on my own. I was overwhelmed, though, and feeling alone, and needed to get it off of my chest. She was quick to disagree with my claim. "You have every right to complain," she wrote. "Just because you signed up for all of it doesn't mean it's easy to do. You've been juggling a million things since the day that I met you." She was right. Since 8th grade, my schedule has been filled with just about anything and everything. I was the girl who never said no and never even considered the idea of quitting. Quitting equals failure, and that was not something that I was willing to be. So I pushed myself, constantly. I joined clubs and started a few when I decided that what I already had just wasn't enough. This translated to my friendships as well. I stayed up late, worried that if I went to bed before my friends, something would happen and they would need me, but I wouldn't be awake to answer. It was her next text, though, that really struck home. When you care about something, Samantha, you attach to it and you fight for it like nothing else. It's why people love you so much, but I'm worried that when you don't even loosen your grip just a little bit, you don't realize that you've forgotten how to hold on to yourself. You need to get better at asking for help. Ask for help? Me? What would that even look like? The thought of it sent actual chills down my spine. I considered myself an open book, but this would expose wounds that I wasn't willing to even admit to myself existed. Asking for help would mean admitting that I wasn't good enough, and that was my worst nightmare. Last year, I stood in front of this same space on Yom Kippur and asked us all to embrace the word religious as part of our Reform identities. It was a moment that asked us to step out of our comfort zone and into pride for our individual stories. This year, I have another proposition. This year, I challenge us to admit that we're not good enough, at least not on our own. Stepping out of our comfort zone is embracing that personal growth, truly holding ourselves and learning how to, if we don't, works best when we aren't alone. But what does it look like to hold ourselves? How do we balance relationships and our commitment to others with the relationship that everyone says we're supposed to have with ourselves? As we reflect on our own limits and the ways that we avoid discomfort, I'm reminded of the Jewish practice that we take part of in today, teshuvah, returning, reflecting, and seeking to repair ourselves. But this instinct to protect ourselves and avoid vulnerability isn't just personal, it's cultural. Our generation has been trained to treat connection as transactional, curated, and easy. Today, social media tells us that we're in the age of you. Video after video tells you that it's time to stop worrying about other people's opinions. Dress for you. Focus on self-care. Be the main character of your story. This prioritization of you is important. It reminds us to put on our own oxygen mask. But we've forgotten to add the disclaimer that once ours is on, we can turn to help others. It also sometimes forgets to remind us that other people can help us put on one too when we can't do it ourselves. Real growth, lasting growth, happens when the people around us challenge us, hold us accountable, and help us carry the load. Not because we can't do it ourselves, but because it will always be later with someone else there to do it with you. The best way to envision this is through a personal favorite concept of mine, the invisible string theory. I came across it for the first time Two siblings are having trouble sleeping in a thunderstorm when their mom lets them know that even when she's not there with them to hold them, an invisible string will always keep her close. Even though you cannot see it with your eyes, you can feel it with your heart and know that you are always connected to everyone that you love. These strings aren't just about providing comfort, though. They're about growth. The children who were previously terrified to go to bed now sleep peacefully, dreaming of the invisible strings. But it's easy to ignore the string. If we can't see them, then we can go around, allowing ourselves to feel disconnected and alone, even when they're right there. Our generation has become incredibly good at this. We've been told that life, love, friendship, and connection should be simple, effortless, and immediate. An article by the New York Times published a guide to understanding Gen Z phrases. But the listed words, ghosting, breadcrumbing, canceled, cookie jarring, although I'm still not sure I've ever heard anyone use that last one, aren't just slang. They've become our shorthand for avoiding discomfort. They've become the way that we skip out on the work of sustaining meaningful relationships. We've been taught now that if something hurts, it's time to move on. Don't fight for it. But growth, connection, and love doesn't work that way. Chloe didn't just tell me that I was right to feel overwhelmed. She called me out on something that was holding me back from taking care of myself and fixing my problem. It was time for me to learn how to ask for help. A not-so-old version of myself would have found 100 ways to ignore or dismiss her comment. I didn't need help, I just needed to push harder. It was just gonna be a few weeks, this'll pass. But I decided that it was time, and I decided to talk to her more. And she met my vulnerability with care and accountability. She reminded me that vulnerability isn't shameful. It's a choice to let someone in, to risk discomfort so that you can grow not just on your own, but together. That's what real connection looks like. It's not a perfect system. Sometimes we can do everything right. We can open up and be vulnerable. We can say, I'm standing right here. How can you not see me? And we can be met with rejection or silence. And believe me, it hurts. But if we never even reach out to open the door just a little bit to growing together, we end up in the same way anyways. The doors are closed at the end of both of these. So how do we do these things? How do we share vulnerability and engage in the hard conversations? Well, the good news that I have for you today is that the answer can be found by doing what you're already doing. Modeling Jewish values, hearing Torah, and passing down Jewish tradition. There's a lot to be learned in our books. 1, reach out before you've hit a breaking point. Like Hannah, who we'll hear more about later, who poured her heart out in prayer before despair consumed her. We too are called to ask for help early, so that we don't have to carry our burdens alone, and so that our burdens don't pile up until they explode. 2, allow yourself to be challenged. Like Abraham, who trusted guidance even when stretched to his limits. We read today in our Torah portion the story of the sacrifice of his son, Isaac. We too grow when we let people challenge us instead of just agreeing with us. Take small risks with vulnerability. That one's number 3. Joseph shared his dreams even when misunderstood by those closest to him. He let the colorfulness of his coat be the colorfulness of his personality, even at times when everyone pushed him away. We too open doors to reconciliation and understanding when we are dared to speak up. 4, notice who meets vulnerability with care. In the story of Ruth and Naomi, Ruth trusts Naomi's guidance in an uncertain world. She says, where you go, I will go. We too find ourselves with invisible strings when we surround ourselves with those who hold us without judgment. These strings become a little bit less invisible. In practicing these lessons, we are engaged in a form of daily teshuvah. We notice where we fall short, we reflect on how we care for ourselves and for others, and we take steps to repair and strengthen the relationships that sustain us, including the one with ourselves. Growth isn't just about going it alone. It's about reaching out, trusting our invisible strings, and holding ourselves together with the care, challenge, and accountability of those around us. Vulnerability is bad for you. Letting people in makes us feel exposed, like we're risking getting hurt. only thing worse than being vulnerable is never being vulnerable at all. Because when we reach out, it's amazing, or at least it can be. When we never reach out, we never heal, we never grow, and we never get to know how strong our invisible strengths in our community truly are. In this new year, I invite us all to channel the lessons of our sages and of our books and of our Torah, and to say that it is time to take care of ourselves and our community, and to understand